Issue 26. We start off with Sonic running over the water surface, which helps his friends cool off by creating a cooling jet spray in the process, which is another creative use of his powers by the Raiders. Also, Antoine can't swim. And predictably, from what Sonic was saying in the first panel, he has to stop and fall into the water, because he didn't want to crash into a bunch of ducks. Makes sense since he wasn't watching where he was going. Suddenly, a snow cloud starts hailing out. And because the writers can't think of a natural way for the heroes to find out the source of this storm, they have Nicole know about it through the power of plot convenience. It wouldn't be so insulting if Nicole sounded more like she was making an educated guess, instead of magically knowing the answer for an absolute certainty every single time. I mean, of course it's been generated by Robotnik. That's another thing, is we didn't need Nicole to be asked about this at all, because it was so obvious. If something weird happens, it's Robotnik's fault. You'd think they'd have figured this out by now. Of course, they have to make Antoine look completely brain dead for the sake of comedy relief, by insisting it's just a summer shower when there's clearly hail in front of them, giving characters the idiot ball. This is the kind of humor that doesn't work. Eggman brags about his 2-week course in meteorology at night school paying off, because someone could totally teach him everything he needs to know to make this weather machine in just 2 weeks. At least a justification for this stupid seeming plan. He'll make Mobius cold so that he can use the infrared detector to find any being with body heat, making it a lot easier to roboticize them. Is he not aware that killing all of the trees that produce the planet's oxygen like this would end up with him suffocating to death on uninhabitable Mobius? He really doesn't think things all the way through. And neither does Snively, of course. Always remember when I'm insulting Eggman's arbitrary evil plans that the same applies to Snively. The Freedom Fighters are trying to figure out where their home is, with a real sense of stakes being made because Sally mentions their danger of freezing to death. And once again, Antoine is given the idiot ball instead of being an actual character because he looks brainless for the sake of a joke, saying Sonic's turning blue from the cold when he isn't. The attempted justification is that his brain is getting frostbite, but he doesn't act like that after this, so yeah. And after this, Sally uses her get out of jail free card once again by asking Nicole where the nearest cave is. Good thing this world has functioning internet and Wi-Fi that Nicole can connect to for using a GPS for them. Oh wait, it doesn't. Eggman probably wouldn't allow that. So far I'm not enjoying this issue. It did get me to actually care when even Nicole seemed to be affected by the cold, having difficulty speaking. And Sally says her circus must be frozen. Tails says in complete desperation that maybe the cave or a hot tub, somehow. And they reach the cave. Sally finally thinks to ask Sonic if he can create heat with his speed. Logically, he should be able to from friction, but for some arbitrary reason, Sonic says that he's gotta defrost first, because bullshit. This plot has gone nowhere so far. But suddenly, through a very lucky coincidence, the Freedom Fighters are rescued by an unknown person, and we cut to Eggman demanding swap pods to search the cave until they actually would find him, which they never do. Somehow. Saying no living being could survive the cold for that long. By the way, why isn't Eggman cold? We see an interesting concept in world building here in the form of a warm cave inhabited by people who can magically control their own environment. I'm glad Sonic actually asked why they're here since they're Arctic Mobians, who should be in the Arctic. Pretty lazy that they didn't bother giving the Arctic and Mobius a different name from our Arctic though. It's explained that they traveled south years ago to visit their friends and family who weren't living in the Arctic for no reason. Also, why would someone voluntarily want to live in the Arctic anyways? I mean, it's not like they're scientists who are studying the Arctic or anything. That wasn't explained either. And when Robotnik began his reign of terror, they hid here because somehow they figured out Robotnik sensors can't penetrate the walls of the cave at this level. Good thing they've got a geologist with him or something to figure that out, right? Maybe they just guessed because he hadn't found them in so long. For some reason, it's also revealed that they needed cold climate in order to survive. I guess that's why they wanted to live in the Arctic, because they're magical creatures like that. Naturally, because they needed the cold to survive, they used their ability to control the environment to create an Arctic zone. I'm guessing this is the small region variety, not an entire universe. Sonic brags about being able to run again. Wait a minute! What is he talking about? He can't run when it's snowy. That's ridiculous. How the hell has Sonic been able to run in Ice Cap Zone and Alaska and Ice Mountain and stuff? I know those are the games, but there's a limit to how much the comic Sonic can be different without it being stupid and arbitrary. He's supposed to be more powerful than that. This is such an arbitrary kryptonite for him. Sonic not being able to run fast because he's cold. Ridiculous. After Sonic slips on the ice and falls so that he can be the butt of a joke for once, the explanation is skipped past, and a guy says, "It seems we're all outcasts." Where'd you come to that conclusion? How are the freedom fighters outcasts rejected by society? Sonic is immediately warned by Sally, being realistic, that he'd freeze before he'd even get near Robotnik. The Arctic people insist that if they train the freedom fighters, they'll magically be able to have no problem with the cold whatsoever, including curing Sonic's inability to run when he's cold. That's so convenient, isn't it? Obviously this is a load of bullshit. I do like how Sonic gets the idea that they need to make use of snow against Eggman too, though. Creative use of the environment around him. I also like how Snively complains about the cold. Makes sense since he should be able to feel it, although Eggman for some reason isn't affected. Snively points out that it's been a week by now since the cold weather started and reasons that they would have attacked the tower by now if they could. And predictably, this is exactly when the freedom fighters show up with giant snowballs and a catapult, which Sally wants to use to knock out the weather machine. Robotnik makes the weather even worse so that they can't even see the weather machine, and after they rush in to attack it themselves, Snively ambushes them and shoots them with a portable roboticizer. Oh wait, that's not what happened, because that'd be smart. Instead, they're trapped in a block of ice. I at least like how Sonic complains about them all being a Captain Obvious. But if the writers were self-aware of how bad and stilted the dialogue was here, why the hell didn't they change it to fix it instead? Fortunately, Snively gets stopped in his vehicle by the Arctic polar bear guy being a badass, and a Chekhov's gun, with these guys who previously insisted they couldn't be good in combat helping them out anyways. I like how Sonic has a creative and smart idea here, where he tells the guy to load him into the catapult still trapped in the ice cube because there isn't time to get him out, and this destroys the weather machine. I'd like to point out that there's no indication that Eggman's actually found a lot more people and roboticized them thanks to his infrared sensors during all this time. Hasn't found Knothole, which is full of people that you'd think the sensors would have picked up. So much for the tension. He wasn't just looking for the freedom fighters, he could have found other people too, but he didn't. Somehow. Like they forgot the entire motivation for why he made the weather machine to begin with. And at the end, Sonic's friends aren't too keen about having a snowball fight because they're sick of the cold by this point, even though they've been trained to like it. This story was written by Angelo, and it wasn't very well written at all. Not like, it's night and day compared to the previous one, which was written by Michael Gallagher. It's full of plot holes. It takes forever to get going with Sonic finding the Arctic Freedom Fighters. Nicole's used the Deus Ex Machina twice in a row, although only once the necessary. Eggman was too stupid to properly benefit from the whole reason he made his weather machine, and somehow didn't feel cold from it. And the source of comedy was often making Antoine a hopeless dunce for the sake of a laugh. But the absolute biggest bullshit about this story is that I'm expected to believe Sonic can't run when he's cold, and that the freedom fighters could be trained to be perfectly fine with fighting in the cold. And just for one issue at that. After a week of magical training with some otherwise useless freedom fighters, who really shouldn't have called themselves that if they think they can't fight when they can, because that means they aren't doing anything to Eggman then. So they're not freedom fighters, they're just guys who are hiding. Not to mention, it seemed like none of them had a distinctive personality. The Arctic Freedom Fighters were just like Sally's trainees. Only worse because at least they had the pig to be a memorable, actual character. It feels like this is going to be a recurring theme where they introduce a new group of freedom fighters, but none of them have a distinct personality, not even a one-dimensional, overbearing personality trait. The whole story was just frustrating and boring, even if I did love the concept of Eggman using cold weather against them, and being defeated by a catapult using the very same ice he created. Like many stories in this comic so far, the concept is excellent, but the execution just sucked for me. And there was also a second story, which I couldn't find the footage of because nobody uploaded it to YouTube. See, this is why I had a problem with and put off making reviews of this comic for so long. It's not always easy to find footage, but I'll try to talk about it anyways. Basically, the Freedom Fighters are carrying Sonic, who injured his ankle up the side of a mountain they were exploring for some reason. And Robotnik is hot on their trail in his bot bus, and they actually find an old log fort that was built by Sally's ancestors. So, her ancestors weren't royalty then? That has to be it, since I don't think royalty would build an old log fort. I think they would just get their servants to do it. Unfortunately, the Freedom Fighters realize that the fort isn't really going to hold up against Robotnik's forces. Why doesn't Bunny destroy them though? Well, they only have a busted old cannon in the old log fort. Bunny closes the front gate and complains that if she was completely a robot, she could stand a chance against Robotnik's forces. Makes sense, since she would be she wouldn't have exposed skin, she'd be completely made of metal, and so she would be a lot harder to take down. So this is really an interesting concept. I really like how they're actually using Bunny, for one, remembering that she exists, and remembering that she's a cyborg. So that's cool, I guess. And Sonic gets an idea and asks Rhoda to use the pocket laser that he conveniently had for some reason to weld something using the fort's cannon. So that's cool. Sonic gets an engineering idea. So you'd think that it would be Rotor who got the idea, but it's cool to have Sonic have a smart idea too. Can't have Rotor hogging all the intelligence. And when the bot bus bursts through the door, it sees Bunny, outfitted in armor made from the broken cannon, standing in their way. And she calls herself Robo Bunny. What, does she subconsciously want to have been roboticized or something? Well, I guess obviously with her free will intact. She handily defeated the squad of SWAT bots riding on the bus. So, I guess they were riding on the bus because they would have gotten here a lot faster that way. Makes sense, I guess. However, the armor weighs her down so much that she can't escape from the bot bus. Robotnik tries to ram her with it, but Bunny simply extends her legs to lift herself above the bus, which bursts through the fort wall and, unable to stop, barrels down the side of the mountain. So that was cool that they're actually using her ability to, it's just a cool concept in general. I like that. This story was also written by Angelo, and I loved it because of how useful it made Bunny. And of course, using the fact that she's a cyborg. Although, her literally saying, "You made me what I am," kind of makes it weird how she angsts about being a cyborg later on. So, it's like, she accepts herself, she's proud of herself for being a cyborg. It's who she is, she says, but then later she suddenly isn't proud of it. It seems like she has, backwards character development. She should have started out being uncomfortable and angsty about it, but then become cheerful about it like this later on. But instead, because the comics started out being forced to be comedic, it's backwards, and she's uncomfortable with it only later. They only later remembered, oh right, someone would probably be uncomfortable with it. Okay. I don't know, just kind of weird in retrospect. I don't think the Bunny later in this comic would ever want to call herself Robo Bunny. It would probably be hitting too close to home for her.